Michael sat at the coffee shop, his hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug he had stopped sipping from 10 minutes ago. He wasn't there for coffee, he was there for answers. For the past 3 weeks, something about Emma, his wife of 6 years, had felt different. Not in an obvious way, but in the kind of way that gnaws at you quietly, like a whisper in the back of your mind. She still smiled, still kissed him goodnight, still asked about his day. But her eyes sometimes looked like they were chasing a thought too far away from the moment they were in. Psychologists say women rarely come right out and confess infidelity. Instead, their subconscious leaks the truth through small, barely noticeable changes, shifts in routine, language, or even body posture. Michael didn't know much about psychology, but he could feel it. Something in their rhythm had cracked. That morning, Emma had left her phone face down on the kitchen counter, details so small, yet so strange. She'd never done that before. He told himself it was nothing, but nothing was starting to pile up into something too heavy to ignore. And Michael knew, if there were signs, he'd have to find them before they disappeared. That evening, Michael noticed Emma's laughter. It wasn't the sound itself, it was the timing. They were sitting on the couch, watching a show they'd watched dozens of times before. Yet her phone buzzed, and she laughed. Softly, almost privately. She tilted her body away from him as she typed a reply. It was subtle, but the human brain is wired to notice small deviations in behaviors when love is involved. Later that night, she claimed she was too tired for their usual bedtime talk. Instead, she scrolled through her phone, screen dimmed. Michael pretended to be asleep, but his mind was running in circles. He remembered reading somewhere that when a woman is emotionally invested in someone else, her attention at home becomes protective of her devices, her free time, and even her laughter. It wasn't proof, but it was a pattern. The strangest thing? Emma had started dressing differently for work, brighter colors, bolder lipstick. She said it was just for herself, but Michael couldn't shake the feeling that the new version of her wasn't entirely for him. For the first time, he wondered if he was ready to hear the truth, because once you see the signs, you can't unsee them. A week later, Michael noticed Emma's mornings had changed. She used to rush out of bed, barely making it to work on time. Now, she woke up earlier, spending extra minutes in front of the mirror. Her perfume lingered in the air, long after she'd left. A scent he hadn't smelled in years, expensive, intoxicating, and unfamiliar. When he asked why she was up so early, she smiled and said, just trying to be more productive. But productivity didn't explain the sudden urge to straighten her hair perfectly, or the careful way she applied mascara, as if she were meeting someone who noticed every detail. Michael started to track her comings and goings, not obsessively, just observantly. He noticed she no longer called him during lunch breaks. Instead, her replies came hours later with vague excuses, busy day, or meetings. One evening, she came home later than usual, claiming she'd been stuck in traffic. But Michael knew the traffic that day had been light he'd checked. The story didn't fit, and neither did the faint smell of cologne on her scarf. A scent that definitely wasn't his. Michael's gut screamed for answers, but his heart still hoped he was wrong. The signs were stacking up, but the truth was still hiding. For now, Michael began to notice Emma's phone habits shifting. She used to leave her phone on the coffee table, sometimes forgetting where she put it. Now, it was always in her hand or face down on the table, locked tight with a new passcode. He didn't know. At night, when she thought he was asleep, she'd slip out of bed, padding softly to the kitchen. Through the crack in the bedroom door, Michael could see the faint blue glow of her phone screen. She'd whisper in low tones, occasionally smiling, a smile he hadn't seen directed at him in months. One Friday evening, her phone lit up while she was in the shower. Michael's eyes caught the name on the screen. A.M. The message preview read, "Last night was unforgettable. Same time next week." His stomach twisted, but he didn't open the phone. Not yet. He needed proof. Undeniable proof. Acting too soon could push her to hide things even deeper. That weekend, Emma announced she'd be working late again. Michael kissed her goodbye, pretending nothing was wrong. But this time, he wasn't going to just wait at home, he decided, to follow her. Michael waited 10 minutes after Emma left before slipping into his car. He kept a safe distance, headlights off when possible, heart pounding in his chest. Instead of heading toward her office, Emma's car turned onto a quieter road leading to the edge of town. Streetlights grew sparse, the night air heavy with anticipation. She finally pulled into a small, dimly lit cafe, one Michael had never seen before. From his parked spot across the street, Michael watched as Emma stepped out, scanning the area like someone checking for danger. Then, a tall man emerged from the shadows. She smiled, a wide, genuine smile Michael hadn't seen in months, and wrapped her arms around him. They didn't rush inside. They stood close, talking, touching, as if the world had disappeared. Michael's grip on the steering wheel tightened until his knuckles turned white. He wanted to storm over, demand the truth right there, but part of him needed more. He needed to hear what they were saying. Sliding out of his car, he crept closer, the sound of their laughter cutting through the night. Every step brought him closer to answers he might not be ready to face. Michael crouched behind a row of parked motorcycles, just a few feet away from Emma and the man. Their voices were low, but the night was silent enough for him to catch fragments. I can't keep meeting you like this, Emma said, her tone both anxious and tender. The man's reply was firm, almost protective. You know I'd do anything for you. But if he finds out, Emma cut him off. He won't. He's too busy with his own world to notice mine. Michael's stomach twisted. Too busy. He had been working overtime, thinking he was protecting their future. All the while, she was building another life in the shadows. Man brushed a strand of hair from Emma's face and whispered something that made her laugh softly, a sound Michael hadn't heard directed at him in years. Then, Emma glanced around nervously. We have to be careful. Michael can read me too well. If I slip, he'll know. Michael froze. She was aware of his suspicion. And yet, here she was, still taking the risk. That meant one thing. Whatever she had with this man was worth more to her than the life she had with him. Michael's mind was a storm of rage and disbelief. But one thought burned above all others. He needed proof solid enough that she couldn't talk her way out of it. 2 days later, Michael sat quietly at the dinner table, his phone propped up against the sugar jar. Emma entered, smiling faintly. Carrying a bowl of pasta, she looked normal, almost to normal. But Michael wasn't looking at her. He was watching the screen of his phone, where a recorded video played silently. Emma and the man from the cafe, sitting close together, her hand resting on his knee, her eyes sparkling in a way Michael hadn't seen in years. He pressed play with the volume up. The sound of her voice filled the kitchen. I can't keep meeting you like this. And then the man's reply, you know I'd do anything for you. Emma froze, the bowl slipping slightly in her grip. Michael, I can explain. No, he said, his voice calm but razor sharp. You've already explained everything, in your own words. For a moment, they just stared at each other. No shouting, no tears. Just a silence so heavy, it felt like the walls were listening. Emma's eyes darted toward the door, as if escape might erase what had been exposed. But Michael didn't move. He didn't need to. The truth was out, and there was no going back. She placed the bowl down, her hands trembling. So, what happens now? Michael's gaze didn't waver. Now, I stop pretending I don't see the signs. And with that, he stood up, leaving her alone in the echo of her own betrayal.